Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan has dreamed of a new Turkey, a Turkey which might not be a new Ottoman Empire, but would be accorded the same status and prestige. Today, that dream is vanishing. I-24 News correspondent Eli Ochenberg explained what happened.
It was less than a year ago when Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan inaugurated the lavishly overindulged Aksaray, or White Palace, located inside the Atatürk forest farm in Ankara. The building of the new palace was yet another part of Erdogan implementing his new Turkey vision, aimed at reviving the glory days of the Ottoman Empire, and, just maybe, seeing himself as a modern-time sultan.
Today, the old ages are over, and the new era is starting, the era of a new big Turkey that will carry the spirit of the beginning of the Republic.
But in recent months, it seems that Erdogan's dreams of a new, stronger than ever Turkey are slowly fading away. He has no one to blame but himself and his policies.
Unfortunately, Turkey has not been able to form a new government up to now. Our solution, as usual, is to submit to the national will.
Erdogan announced Wednesday that he will not renew the mandate for forming a government he gave to Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu and will rather move towards a fresh round of elections in the few upcoming months. In order to understand Erdogan's rationale, or at least try to, it's necessary to start from the beginning. The Turkish leader was almost ecstatic back in 2011, when it seems the Arab Spring momentum would sway the Syrian nation and topple its dictator Bashar al-Assad. Turkey then sided with the rebels and allowed thousands of fighters to enter the Syrian war zone through its border. Among them were those who joined the Islamic State.
By closing her eyes, Turkey helped thousands of foreigners come to fight in ranks of the Islamic State, and that is why we suffer from this sadness that we live today.
Yet recently, after years of both active and behind-the-scenes backing, Erdogan decided to join the Western trend and fight against IS, opening its bases to US warplanes. Unsurprisingly, it didn't take long for IS to declare war on its new rival.
Yes, the traitor Tayyip Erdogan sold Turkey to the racist PKK and the Crusaders. Turkish people, without losing any time, you have to rebel against these atheists, Crusaders, and these infidels.
Yet Erdogan's main obsession is not IS, but the ones who are most effectively fighting them, the Kurds. It all reached a peak when the Turkish government launched a ruthless campaign against the PKK last month, effectively demolishing the fragile ceasefire which was signed in 2013. According to security sources, until now at least 440 suspected PKK militants have been killed and 400 others have been injured in operations. The Turkish president now hopes that his war will help him in the polls, but no one can guarantee that the surge of support for the pro-Kurdish HD party ahead of the June elections, which cost the AKP its absolute majority, will not increase before the next elections, leaving Erdogan empty-handed and his fantasies on changing the constitution to secure his power unrealized.
And with me right now here in the studio is Eli Ochenberg, diplomatic correspondent for the News Today. Good evening.
Good evening, Wilson.
And also George Evie, Middle East expert at the Ben-Gurion University. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me. So let's start with you. George, how come Turkey got to this point? What brought Turkey to be involved in so many fronts and not being able actually to improve itself?
Well, I think it's pretty clear, although it seems very complicated. I think President Erdogan took Turkey to the precipice, took Turkey to the edge of everything, actually, by deciding he doesn't want to accept the vote. He wants to be a president with all the powers, and he doesn't want to be accountable to a parliament and a government that is not entirely under his influence. So I think everything is done in the last few weeks, perhaps, since June, since the elections in June, is intended to do one thing, to change the results of the previous elections. And that's where we are right now.
This sounds very, very
familiar.
Similar,
suspiciously similar. Yeah. So it is indeed very similar to the case here in Israel. Both Benjamin Netanyahu and Turkish President Erdogan are both very much focused on their political power and pretty much nothing but that. Erdogan's main target at the moment is turning the constitution into the situation that he will have the most amount of power possible, and that means not only the official title of president like we see here in Israel and in many European countries, which is, a bipartisan character with no political orientation, and we have a prime minister with the executive power. But Erdogan wants to have both, and this is what he focuses about. And as very similar to Benjamin Netanyahu, both of them like to create problems in their backyard to shift the discourse from the social issues, economic issues, into the power and security matters.
In the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, it really worked out for him because he won in, let's say, in a big, he swept the voters.
Absolutely.
But can it work for Erdogan?
I'm not sure he's taking a very big gamble. I mean, the idea of opening a war against the Kurds, which was intended in some way to improve his situation in the polls by moving the vote away from the Kurdish party. Those Turks who voted for Demirtas, the Kurdish incumbent, or the Kurdish head of party, may decide this time not to vote for the Kurds because it's a war situation. You don't vote for your perceived enemies in that kind of situation. But I'm not sure it's going to work this time. My impression is that most of the Turks don't buy this thing anymore, and maybe he won't be able to sweep it as he plans to do.
Do you think that we will be able to see, or we will see, a situation where Erdogan will not be the president in Turkey anymore?
No, he is the president. He was elected by the people as the president. It has nothing to do with the elections. If the elections go on, and even if his party loses, he still remains the president. But he won't have any executive power. The executive power will be with another party or with a coalition. And that's something that he can't really stand.
Why I'm asking you this, because after he's losing in so many fronts, after he's leading Turkey to a situation where he is not actually able to stabilize the country, he won't get up and say, you know what, that's it, I'm taking some time off.
That's not the kind of character that Erdogan is. I mean, I'm sure he'll find any way in the book to change the election results, to make sure he holds on to power, to find ways to, even if there's a coalition of another party, to make sure that he has the final say on things. He's not the Kartik to say, okay, I'm sorry, I've lost, I'm going down, and find somebody else.
There's even a sense of greediness in this second round of elections, because the AKP won 41%, but they want to rule solely with no coalition partners, again, as you said, so they will have the power only to themselves, and it's very much befitting to Erdogan's character, wanting to centralize all the power in his own hands.
How centralized? You know, I'm looking at Turkey. Turkey once was maybe the symbol of, let's say, the liberal Muslim country, that secular. Today we can say it about Azerbaijan maybe, but we cannot say it about Turkey. And he is leading the country to a place, a very religious place. Nobody is, let's say, watching the democracy. Nobody is
well, he managed to basically castrate the army. The army, who was always the guardian of democracy, is no longer able to do that job. The police is totally under his control. He managed to change the court system and make it actually the judicial power subservient to him. So I don't see anyone now coming up and saying, listen, this is going somewhere we don't want to go as a people. And of course, he's changing the education system, so in the long term, he may have his way.
Thank you very, very much, both of you, Rozevi and Lichtenberg. Thank you very much. We're going out for a small break.